Namaste. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you all are doing great. This channel is about the ancient wisdom of yoga. In today's video, we'll discuss causes of suffering. What causes pain? We'll study that according to yoga philosophy. Later, we'll understand that the pain and the suffering can be removed and how to bring spiritual joy and sustain it. In Sanskrit language, the term Klesha is used for cause of suffering. Klesha means mental afflictions or sources of suffering. In simple terms, these are the cause of our pain or suffering. Think of kleshas as those mental habits that lead to suffering. For example, imagine someone who holds on to a grudge against a friend for a small mistake. This attachment to anger causes pain and tension in their relationship. The grudge becomes a mental affliction or klesha. Surprisingly, even happiness can be a klesha in yoga philosophy. Consider a person who is overly attached to a specific type of happiness, like the thrill of buying new clothes. They constantly seek this feeling, believing it will bring lasting joy. However, this happiness is transient. And when it fades, they experience sorrow and longing. Their attachment to this fleeting happiness becomes a klesha. Imagine someone cherishing a group of friends and deriving immense happiness from their company. Then, due to circumstances, they move away, and the separation causes profound sorrow. Their attachment to happiness derived from these friends becomes a klesha. In yoga philosophy, these kleshas are seen as the glue that binds the soul to the cycle of suffering. Consider a person who is deeply attached to their material possessions and achievements. They constantly strive for more, fearing the idea of losing these things. This attachment keeps their soul bound to the cycle of desire and suffering. Kleshas or mental afflictions are broadly divided into 5 categories. Let us understand these categories one by one. First klesha is avidya or ignorance. Avidya or ignorance is like the seed of all other kleshas. It's when we mistake imperfection and unhappiness for perfection and happiness respectively. Imagine someone who thinks material wealth is the key to lasting happiness, but in reality it's fleeting, like buying a new gadget thinking it will bring eternal joy. Avidya as ignorance is like the root cause of all our mental troubles. Let us understand with some daily life examples. Imagine someone who believes that having a lot of money and possessions guarantees lifelong happiness. They work tirelessly to accumulate wealth, buying the latest gadgets and luxurious items. However, over time, they realize that material things alone don't bring lasting joy. This misunderstanding of where true happiness lies is avidya or ignorance. Let's take another example. Consider a person who constantly strives to have what they think is the perfect body. They follow extreme diets and exercise routines to achieve a certain look, believing it will bring them happiness. Eventually, they discover that even with the ideal body, true contentment doesn't automatically follow. Their misconception about physical appearance equating to happiness is avidya. Let's take one more example. Some individuals may think that a perfect relationship means there's never any conflict or disagreement. They avoid any issues and suppress their feelings to maintain this ideal image of perfection. However, they soon realize that genuine connection and growth in relationships often come through facing challenges together. Their misperception of a flawless relationship causing lasting happiness is avidya. In simple terms, avidya is like wearing glasses that distort reality. It leads us to chase after things we think will make us eternally happy, only to find out they're fleeting. By recognizing and addressing this ignorance, we can begin to see life more clearly and seek genuine and lasting sources of joy and contentment. The next klesha or mental affliction is Asmita, also called ego or I-ness. Asmita makes us believe that our ego, mind, and body are the essence of our being. Asmita is when we become overly focused on ourselves, believing that our ego is the core of who we are. Let us understand this with some examples. Imagine someone who's so deeply tied to their job that they think it's the only thing that defines them. They introduce themselves primarily by their job title, and their entire identity revolves around their career. They may even neglect other aspects of life like family and hobbies because they're consumed by work. This excessive identification with their job is an example of Asmita or ego. Let's take another example to understand this better. In the age of social media, some people become fixated on creating a specific image of themselves online. They carefully curate their posts to portray an idealized version of their life, trying to impress others. They might start believing that this online persona is who they truly are, losing touch with their real, multifaceted selves. This fixation on the image they project is an example of Asmita. Now, consider someone who constantly worries about their physical appearance. They may spend excessive time and money on cosmetics, surgeries, or extreme diets to maintain a particular look. This preoccupation with their physical self can make them believe that their outer appearance is their entire identity, overshadowing their inner qualities. This is another manifestation of Asmita. In simple terms, Asmita is like being trapped in a small room with mirrors all around, so you only see yourself. It can lead us to exaggerate our self-importance and lose sight of our broader identity, including our relationships, interests, and inner qualities. By recognizing and balancing our self-perception, we can lead more fulfilling lives beyond our ego, mind, and body. The next mental affliction is raga or attachment. This is the strong desire that lingers even after the pleasure for something fades. Raga is when we become deeply attached to something, and even after the initial pleasure fades, we can't stop desiring it. Let us understand this with some examples. Think about someone who absolutely loves sweets. They eat a delicious dessert and it brings them immense pleasure. However, instead of stopping when they're satisfied, they continue to eat more and more sweets, even to the point of feeling sick. This intense craving for sweets, despite no longer enjoying them, is an example of raga or attachment. Now, understand this with another example. Imagine a person who uses shopping as a way to feel better when they're upset or stressed. They buy items they don't really need, believing that acquiring things will make them happy. But soon after the shopping spree, they find that their emotional issues are still there. Their attachment to shopping as a solution, even when it doesn't work, is an example of raga. Another example can be, some individuals become attached to toxic or unhealthy relationships. This is a very common example in today's time. They might know that the relationship brings them pain and unhappiness, but they can't let go. They hold on to the hope that things will improve, even when evidence suggests otherwise. This unwavering attachment to a harmful connection is another manifestation of raga. In simple terms, raga is like being stuck in a loop, craving something even when it no longer brings joy or serves our well-being. It can lead to overindulgence, compulsive behaviors, and staying in situations that are detrimental to our happiness. Recognizing and managing attachment is crucial for finding genuine and sustainable sources of contentment in life. The next mental affliction is dvesha or aversion. It is the opposite of raga, attachment. Dvesha is the feeling of hatred or avoidance tied to unpleasant experiences. Dvesha is when we strongly dislike or avoid something because it brings unpleasant feelings or experiences. Let us understand this with some daily life examples. Picture someone who becomes really upset when it rains because it ruins their outdoor plans. They might harbor resentment towards rainy days, even though they can't control the weather. This intense dislike and annoyance towards rain, which is a natural occurrence, is an example of dvesha or aversion. Another example can be, consider a person who detests certain food like vegetables because they had a bad experience with them as a child. They refuse to eat them, feeling repulsed even though their taste buds and preferences may have changed over time. This aversion to certain foods due to past negative experiences is another manifestation of dvesha. Another relatable example can be, some individuals avoid confronting conflicts or difficult conversations because they fear the discomfort it may bring. They might choose to ignore issues or pretend everything is fine to escape the unease. This aversion to dealing with conflicts can lead to unresolved problems in relationships or at work, and it's another example of dvesha. In simple terms, dvesha is like putting up a barrier or turning away from things that make us uncomfortable or upset, even if it's a natural part of life. It can hinder personal growth and prevent us from addressing challenges constructively. Recognizing and managing aversions can help us face difficult situations with greater resilience and openness. The last mental affliction or cause of pain is abhinivesha, fear of death. This is the fear of letting go of our physical existence. Even great sages can struggle with this fear. It's like being afraid to leave your comfort zone or clinging desperately to life even when it's time to move on. In simple terms, you can say that, abhinivesha is when we are deeply afraid of letting go or when we are afraid of any kind of change. Let us understand this better with some examples. Imagine someone who's stuck in a job they hate, but they're afraid to quit because they fear the uncertainty of finding a new one. They cling to their current situation even though it's causing them unhappiness and stress. This fear of leaving their comfort zone represents abhinivesha. Let's take another example. Consider a person who has ended a romantic relationship but they can't stop thinking about their ex-partner and what could have been. They're afraid to let go of the past and move forward because they're attached to the familiar, even if it's no longer healthy for them. This fear of releasing the past is another example of abhinivesh. In some cases, people facing serious illness may insist on aggressive medical treatments even when doctors suggest they may not improve their quality of life. They are afraid of accepting the natural course of life and continue to hold on to existence, sometimes at great physical and emotional cost. This fear of letting go of life itself is a manifestation of abhinivesha. In simple terms, abhinivesha is like gripping tightly to a rope even when it's time to let go and trust that there is something beyond. It can prevent us from embracing change, making necessary transitions, or finding peace in accepting the inevitable. Recognizing this fear can help us approach life with greater acceptance and serenity. In a sense, Kleshas or mental afflictions are those habits of mind that lead to unhappiness and suffering, whether it's attachment to transient happiness, holding on to grudges, or being afraid of letting go. These kleshas bind us to the cycle of suffering. Removing the root cause, that is avidya or ignorance, through practices like yoga can help break this cycle, leading to a state of bliss and ananda, which is the spiritual joy. Just as tending to the seed ensures a healthier tree, addressing ignorance can lead to a more fulfilling life. Remember that ignorance is the root cause of all other 4 kleshas. If we remove ignorance, we are automatically removing all other causes of suffering. Recognizing and addressing these kleshas through practice like meditation and self-awareness can help us break free from their grip and move towards a more content and liberated state of being. Now, how to remove these kleshas we'll understand according to yoga philosophy. First is ignorance. To overcome avidya, you can practice viveka or discernment. This means learning to distinguish between what brings genuine, lasting happiness like inner peace and self-awareness and what's temporary like material possessions. Meditation and self-reflection can help you see through the illusion that material things equal lasting happiness. For example, think about buying a brand new smartphone. When you first get it, it's exciting and you feel happy. But as time goes on, the excitement fades and you start to think about the next new phone. That's because the joy from having the latest gadget is temporary, like a quick burst of happiness. Now consider spending time in nature, like going for a peaceful hike. Initially, you might not have the same excitement as getting a new phone, but the inner peace and connection with the nature can bring a lasting sense of happiness and contentment. So, practicing viveka means realizing that real, enduring happiness often comes from experiences like being in nature or inner peace rather than constantly chasing after new material things that provides only fleeting joy. Now let's see how to overcome Asmita or ego. Yoga encourages you to practice aparigraha or non-possessiveness, which is about not holding on to things too tightly, especially when it comes to your ego, thoughts, and body. Through meditation, you can discover that your real self goes beyond these surface aspects of who you are. For example, think about your appearance. Many people become very attached to how they look. They might spend a lot of time and energy on their appearance, like obsessing over their clothes or worrying about their weight. Now imagine someone who practices aparigraha. They would still take care of themselves but wouldn't become overly fixated on their physical appearance. Instead, they'd focus on their inner qualities like kindness and intelligence. If they gain a few pounds or have a bad hair day, it wouldn't affect their self-worth because they recognize that their true self is not just their body. So, aparigraha encourages us to let go of excessive attachments to things like our outer appearance or even our thoughts, allowing us to connect with a deeper sense of self that goes beyond these superficial identifications. Now we'll see how to overcome attachment or raga. Vairagya or non-attachment is key to overcoming raga according to yoga philosophy. In simple terms, it is detachment. It's about learning to enjoy life's pleasures without clinging to them. Practicing mindfulness and cultivating contentment can help reduce your attachment to fleeting desires. For example, think about having a smartphone, which is a common attachment for many people. Imagine someone who is deeply attached to their phone. They constantly check it for notifications, feel anxious when it's not nearby, and spend most of their free time scrolling through social media. Their happiness seems to depend on this device. And now, picture someone who practices non-attachment or vairagya. They use their phone for communication, work, and entertainment, but they don't obsess over it. They can put it down without feeling anxious or compelled to check it constantly. They find joy in other activities like reading, spending time with friends, or pursuing hobbies. This balanced approach allows for a healthier and more content relationship with technology and life in general. Now let us see how to overcome dvesha or aversion. To conquer dvesha, you can practice self-study and discipline. By examining your aversions and understanding their root causes, you can gradually reduce your resistance to unpleasant experiences and develop a more balanced response. Just like raga, for dvesha you can also practice detachment or non-attachment. Both raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, arise from asmita, the ego, and all of these can be overcome by practicing non-possessiveness, detachment, and self-study or discipline. Now let us see how to overcome the last mental affliction, which is abhinivesha, the fear of death. Yoga teaches that by embracing the concept of self-surrender to a higher power, you can reduce the fear of death. This doesn't necessarily require belief in a specific deity, but rather a recognition of a higher purpose or order in life. Trusting in the natural cycle of birth and death can help ease the fear of letting go. In a sense, yoga philosophy encourages self-awareness, mindfulness, and a balanced approach to life. Consistency is key for progress. Learn to keep going, keep moving forward, even if you feel stuck. Regularly practice meditation and other yogic practices. By practicing these principles, you can gradually diminish the influence of kleshas and move towards a state of inner peace and liberation. Remember, it's a continuous journey and progress may be gradual, so be patient with yourself along the way. That's all for this video. Hope it helps you heal from the pain and suffering and brings you spiritual peace. If you have any questions, doubts, or suggestions regarding this video, feel free to comment below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share this video so that we can spread this information to the maximum people. If you wish, you can subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to stay updated. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, stay sattvic.